the Wisconsin Badgers pull off a tough loss here, an 80-72 loss against the Nebraska Cornhuskers on the road. And this one's, especially tough. You consider the history. Last year, the Badgers blow a big lead at halftime, end up losing that game in overtime. This year, you were up 19 points with 17 minutes to go, 47-28, and Wisconsin just couldn't pull it through. This one was just really in the second half, it just felt the Wisconsin Badgers were too tired. They were exerting a lot of energy on defense and offense in the first half. And that first half, they played nearly to perfection. I mean, there were a couple of times, where it felt like they were a little out of control offensively, but defensively, they had great energy. They were consistently there at the three-point line, forcing Nebraska to kind of drive in and take different shots than the ones that they're accustomed to. End up going up 43-27 at halftime, increased the lead in the first minutes to 47-28. And so it's a good start for Wisconsin. And then after that, C.J. Wilcher comes in and kind of all things go to hell for the Badgers. They end up pushing it to overtime and then an overtime loss in this one, 80-72. Main takeaways for me, number one has to be the bench scoring because that's where Nebraska got its points. If you're thinking about it, Nebraska had the balls, to pull Keisei Tominaga. That was one of the guys. They pulled two starters who only played less than 20 minutes in this one, and they played some of their backups. Sam Hoyer played 22 minutes, but then Juwan Gary, he played 33 minutes, and then C.J. Wilcher played over 30 minutes as well. Wilcher was a key. He was the leading scorer for Nebraska. Had 22 points on this one, 70% from the field, 5 of 7 from 3. He was just lights out, and he was the reason Nebraska came back in this game. The Badgers tried to stop him, but really at the second half, when you get tired, Wilcher, a spark plug off the bench who looked fresh, was able to take advantage and kind of move the sticks, in favor of Nebraska overall. This one's a tough loss because Wisconsin, who was going to be a one-loss team heading into Sunday in the Big Ten, they're now a two-loss team. They're now a two-loss team in the conference. Lost at Penn State and now lose it in Nebraska. Only makes Sunday's game a little more important because this is their lone matchup that they're going to get with Purdue up until March, I believe, and I think they only have one matchup, I believe, with Illinois as well, the top three teams in the conference. So Sunday's matchup, it seems like it's a little more heightened now, and the team looks a little tired. Hepburn played, I believe, over 40 minutes in this one. All the starters played at least 30 minutes. It was a tiring game for the Badgers, and unfortunately, they couldn't pull it through. Elsewhere, something that was a recurring theme that the Badgers have been done pretty well at avoiding this year was scoring droughts, especially in the second half. I recounted the Badgers having 4 or 5 different scoring droughts in the entirety of the second half. From the 17 minute mark or so, there was a 4-minute stretch where the Badgers failed to score up until the 13-minute mark. And then from there was a 2.5-minute stretch where the Badgers didn't score. Then there was another 4-minute stretch where the Badgers didn't score. And then from 3:32 on to the final 20 seconds in regulation, the Badgers didn't score at all until, AJ Storr had the driving layup with 20 seconds left to send it to overtime. Then comes overtime. You're okay for the first few minutes of overtime, but then with 2 minutes left, Tyler Wall hits a free throw at 74-72. Wisconsin doesn't score again for the final 2 minutes of that game, and Wisconsin ends up losing 80-72. Some of those offensive consistencies, I think, were due to turnovers. Wisconsin had 16 turnovers in the game. This is uncharacteristic of them. They're a low tempo team, but a high efficiency team that relies on taking care of the basketball, playing with good playing with good feel all across the court from inside to outside. That wasn't there today. Even at times when things were going well defensively, it seemed like they were turning the ball over offensively. That needs to change. But this one was just a gut check for the Badgers. They've done extremely well up until this point. Obviously a tough loss with the circumstances, with the way that it was going, and also with the state of the Big Ten at the moment. They're going to need to bounce back. Sunday's their best chance. They got Purdue. If they beat Purdue, the whole narrative about this week changes. But if they lose to Purdue, you're starting to see a 2-game slide. Wisconsin, who was ranked at number 6, probably will drop a good amount. And, it starts having huge March Madness implications as well. So we'll see how Wisconsin can bounce back. A tough loss here at the Pinnacle Bank Arena on Thursday at Lincoln, in Lincoln. Wisconsin, challenge is on you. You got Purdue up. We'll see what they can do.